Welcome to Revlog, where Pastor Aaron is going to disagree with Pastor Bryan today. So we're gonna let Pastor Bryan go first, and you just disagree with him.
Absolutely. I need time to form my counter argument for.
Rebuttal.
Yeah. I'd like you to submit your thoughts in writing at least an hour before our filming so that I have a chance to, I felt flat-footed last week, so that's not fair.
So we heard from many of you, and you liked the healthy debate last week. So we're going to try to manufacture some debate this week between these two. We'll see where it goes.
Issue 1.
Issue number 1.
Actually, issue number 1, we have problem with Baptist Way Press.
We do.
Right, because
we do, yes.
So we're in Job 19, 13 through 19. And Baptist Way Press has titled this, I am not alone, though every verse of this, Job says, I am alone.
What?
Is that?
Every verse would scream the opposite.
Screams loneliness.
Now,
why don't you know? You start it. You jump in, and Aaron can have the rebuttal.
Yes.
You begin.
Well, I think that somebody could come back, and even in my own mind, I did this, and I said, well, the Sunday school answer is, but the Lord, is still there. So you're not alone. But that, first of all, Job doesn't, those verses don't even, the sense of those is not even implying that at all. I mean, he is saying, I'm pretty much alone. So, I don't want to quibble with their titling or whatever. That's, neither here nor there. That is kind of what they're doing. I am not alone. But I think where I went with that was often I do tend, and I think this is part of my just being in the evangelical world, being raised in that vein. I want to say to people, you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And that can come perilously close to be warm and filled. That can come perilously close to that. Yeah. Because the fact is, Job is alone in all of the ways that we would measure somebody's life. His most intimate life with others is non-existent.
Yeah, it matters how you define the word alone.
I
right?
think it does.
And that's the way he's describing it. There is those that would physically be near him are distant, at least in thought, if not in actual proximity.
Right.
And how they care about him. And I think there is some sense, too, though. Wasn't it Elijah that was saying he was alone, and the Lord came back and said, no, you're not alone.
And what he did was he pointed out other people.
Right. And I think that's part of it. So Job isn't alone in the sense that other people suffer too.
True. Oh, okay.
Right.
Well,
so
that's a good
let
point.
me take it there for a
He's
second.
not alone in his suffering, I guess.
So maybe you could take some consolation in the fact that suffering.
Wait, maybe that's what they mean by this title. I am not alone. When I feel bad, I'm in good company because Job.
Yeah, I think
felt
sometimes
worse. I don't know.
Yeah, we feel that way. I don't know.
Well, when you measure a human being in the core dimensions of health, so the social dimension is huge. I mean, we are created to be around and with and interacting with and intimate with other people, and when that is not the case, all is not well.
Right.
And we see several domains here of Job's dysfunction, and including, a lack of friends or destroyed friendships, but also he says, my breath is offensive to my wife, and that's kind of a ha-ha line, I guess, to all of us.
But in my house.
Well, okay. All right. And I am chewing gum, by the way, just in case you haven't noticed. But this. You could say the intimacy with his wife, if his wife finds him physically repulsive, the putrefaction of his flesh is such that, she has, then things, the red lights are really flashing. I mean, she finds him repulsive. That is horrible.
And there likely is no lonelier feeling
Absolutely.
than that.
I mean, this is the attachment that she and he have made has crumbled. It looks like it from all we can see. He's become a pariah in his own intimate relationships.
Yeah, and I assume, even beyond his wife, he feels on some level the same way, that the Lord must feel the same way.
How could he not? I mean, the surrounding verses would say, God has blocked me in, I think a few verses before that. And so, yeah, I think so.
Pastor Aaron, your rebuttal.
I disagree with you on the following points.
No, what did you hear as you read this text for this week?
Well, and Bryan could probably speak to this actually better than I can, but just speaking of mental health and just kind of the state of people's minds when they begin to suffer, when things happen to them, whatever the circumstance, whether it be grief or cancer diagnosis or just depression or specifically depression, that you begin to spiral. Right. And I really read in this chapter 19 this spiral
that's a great word.
Regardless of whether or not it's true, that you remove yourself because of what you're going through, what your mind is going through, and you see no one that is within arm's reach, and then you retreat, and you become further, and even if people want to help you, you have disconnected from all these sources. And I'm not saying Job was depressed, but it's not hard to read that into it, because he's saying he has removed, he has done these things, and I mean he feels like he's being ostracized by God for whatever reason, and then it becomes this real unhealthy place, because I think many of us that struggle with situational grief, that we can get to this place and it's dark.
Can I respond to that? Yeah. I think that is brilliant, because it is something that at the very end there, you opened up this door of understanding how a person could get there. That is an empathetic view. And I think if we read Job with enough seriousness for long enough, we're going to have something well up in us, and it is empathy. I think to understand how somebody could get there is a huge step towards community.
I almost read in this his own self-talk to say,
there is self-talk there.
I can't. No one is coming to my aid that is actually helping. God seems distant, and so this is how it's gotten here, and it becomes this real. I don't.
It's a feedback loop,
yeah.
Really. That's what a spiral is. You can't, like you said, you feel terrible, and so you don't reach out, and the more you don't reach out, the less energy you have, and you feel terrible, and it just feeds back on itself.
So what do you say to Job? What do you say to somebody that you see that I mean, this is not an Old Testament issue. This is very germane to who we are.
I think that's a great question. What do you say? And I think what we don't say is we don't adopt the posture of his friends, his friends' wise words to Job. I think we start with what you said. I can see how you got there. I mean, that right there is going to tell Job, or whoever you're talking to, that there's another person in this space.
You are not alone.
You are not alone. Yes, that was a perfect closure for that. Isn't Baptist Way Press brilliant?
See, we came full circle.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, and we coming post-pandemic, find and hear from people who are desperately lonely.
Yeah.
out of this, and sometimes forget the how powerful and healing physical touch and connection is with another. Even just out of worship yesterday, there's reminded there was a few people in line, hesitant because they kind of wanted to give a hug, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I can't hug." It's like, no, let's hug.
Yeah,
right? And I can hug anybody. Happy to hug.
Yeah.
And but there's still even just some of that, like, "Oh, I'm not supposed to hug you." But we need that
reticence.
There's reticence there coming out of the pandemic, but there's something powerful about being together. And physical touch and hugging one another, and we've missed that the last couple of years.
Well, and by the way, it's not just relational; it is physical.
Right.
And Job touches on both of those things. My friends are gone, and my physical presence is repulsive to people. This is a world of hurt, and it mirrors what our society is looking at right now.
Yeah, and it speaks to, and we see this in hospitals and things too, when people are at their most vulnerable and exposed, and maybe in dire straits with their physical health and maybe even physically deformed, how even just physical touch is healing and powerful with someone.
Jesus knew that, you know?
Yeah.
He touched.
To stand near, hold a hand. Those can be powerful in those moments. And remember, Job is horribly disfigured here.
Yes, that's right.
I mean,
that's
it
right.
is physically repulsive just in that state. So, Bryan, as you've read through this, what question do you have for the text or on the text?
When is a theological reminder not enough? And by that I mean, when is it not enough to say, you're not alone? When does that demand us to go further? When does that reminder demand us to be the presence of God with people?
That he's in a better place.
Right.
The platitudes.
Aaron. Yeah.
Those are true. They're all everything has a grain of truth to it, but you've just negated the fact that I'm suffering. You have just dismissed the fact that I'm hurting.
That's right on.
I mean, great. I agree with you. God's somewhere here, and I feel alone.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, and that I guess my question is: do I ask it for myself or as a pastor? How can I help you hear you when if you're in this place? I want you to know that it's okay to feel this way. To not that I don't want anybody to stay here, but if you're feeling this way, I want to acknowledge that you are suffering.
Yeah,
and
rather than just running right to the other side of that, when a person has to go through that, you can't just run roughshod over that.
If you're feeling this way, it is best to process it.
Yes.
And to talk it out with the Lord and with others, right? And so it is good to share these things and just sharing with them.
If I've learned nothing in this last, 6 months in particular, is that I can fix very, very few things. Mm-hmm. There are very few things that I have the ability to fix.
That's a very vulnerable place to stand.
But I still want to be able to hear.
That's right.
And I still want to be able to just listen where I can. And I think Job is doing a great job of reminding us of that need to not fix, but to just be near, to listen, and to acknowledge that people hurt.
And I will say, next week we continue this chapter, and it gets a little better.
Yeah,
I mean it picks up. This is kind of a to be continued kind of a week.
It is
absolutely.
We're only getting half of this section, and then we move next week.
But can I say this though?
Yeah.
That this is. I do like that we've cut this one up for this reason. It's exactly like we're filming this right now in Holy Week.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And evangelicals, we are so happy to get to resurrection, but it's sometimes very wise for us to remember the suffering that Jesus endured to get to resurrection. Right. Let's stop and recognize that it happens. Jesus had to suffer. And so it's good for us to before I know my Redeemer lives, to remember that the same lips that said, I know my Redeemer lives, also said, that I am alone.
That is so well put. Oh, man. Yeah.
Are we saying "Way to go, Baptist We Press" again? This is twice.
I will
twice
say,
in one.
Way to
revlog?
go, Aaron. Way to go, Aaron.
We agreed way too much in this vlog.
Yeah, there was not enough debate and counterpoint.
All right.
I don't know.
We'll try harder.
Well, good job, fellas. We would love to hear your thoughts on Job's words here. If you would comment below.